And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Township of Douro-Dummer's regularly scheduled council meeting here on the 15th day of February. We welcome everyone and remind you that this meeting is being recorded as well as being presented live on the Township's YouTube channel. We'll call the roll, please, and let us know if you are here. Deputy Mayor Moher.
Here.
Councillor Watt.
Here.
Councillor Landsman.
I'm here.
And Councillor Watson. Okay, also joining us in our meeting tonight, our CAO, Alana Arthurs. Alana, a big wave from you. Our clerk, Martina Chait-Hardwick. Martina, thank you. Our treasurer, Paul Kramer, is here. Paul, we saw you in the background. There you are. And our fire chief, Chuck Pedersen, is here. Chuck, there you are as well. So we are all here. And with that information, I'll call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock on this February the 15th. We respectfully acknowledge that we're on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe, and we offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please join us for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you all very much. The minutes of previous meetings are before us. One motion, please, for the minutes of February 1st, the special meeting, and the regular meeting, please. Motion to receive and approve those minutes. Councillor Watt and Councillor Landsman, all in favor.
I got a question.
Motion is approved. A question on the motion, Carl?
Yes. Last meeting, at a regular meeting, we saw for the first time a consent agenda. There was an item in the consent agenda that we, Councillor Watson recommended we pull out, which we agreed to do. And when you refer to the procedural bylaw, it says there will be no separate discussion. I'm confused as to, did we do wrong what we did last meeting, or just so that I'm clear in my mind, should the words in the procedural bylaw rather than will be, or they should be no separate?
Yeah, we had a little chat with Martina and Alana here not too long ago about that very thing. Madam Clerk, do you want to clarify that for us, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It says no debate, but we are allowed to have discussion, just no debate.
Okay, so just supplementary, Mr. Chair. I was in full agreement to pull out that transportation study that we talked about. So example, if there was a resolution other than receiving that that piece of information, like we resolved to have something done about that, that wouldn't be permitted?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that item would be moved to the correspondence action section, and so there would be an action applied to that item.
Oh, okay. If I'm still, no, I won't take any more time today. I'll maybe raise it when we put our input in regarding the new procedural bylaw. Thank you.
Yeah, I know the consent agenda thing has always been somewhat confusing if you haven't been using it all along. Some councils do all the time. It's fairly new for us, but I'm sure it'll come out in the wash and we'll get used to it. Go ahead, Sheila.
I was just going to make comment that it was moved last meeting to 12.1 or whatever, 12.2.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're at the consent agenda. Could I have a motion, please? Martina, first of all.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I believe we missed the disclosure of pecuniary interest in the adoption of the agenda.
We did too, didn't we? Yes, those three little items at the bottom of my little tiny piece of paper. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Did I see anybody?
No,
No hanking and adoption of the agenda that's before us. Motion, please. Sheila and Heather, all in favor? Okay, we're on track now, and thank you, Eagle Eye, for noticing that. A motion to approve the consent agenda with the one item in it, which is the 12th Line Road Communication Tower, Rogers Wireless Public Notification. Sheila will move that, and seconder is Tom. All in favor? That motion is approved. Okay, moving right along now, we move to delegations, petitions, presentations, and public meetings, item 8.1. Rosalind Moore and Rob Little are with us from the Environmental Council of Clear, Stony, and White Lakes. Rob, am I seeing you? Rob, long time no see. And we're still not seeing you. Madam Clerk, our guests, are they on the line?
They are. Looks like they're just turning their cameras on.
Okay. There we go. Hi, Rosalind. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
We thought you were ignoring us. No, you weren't.
No, no, I've been listening to every word.
Oh,
I've been-
good. Good.
I'm recording it.
And Mr. Little, long time no see.
Nice to see you again, Your Worship.
Okay, I do remind our delegation that it is a 10-minute time limit. I will be setting the timer. With a minute left, you will hear, and you can wrap your comments up. And we're delighted to have you here. So I'll turn it over to Robert and or Rosalind, and we're all ears. Thank you.
So,
So am I waiting for there we are. Okay,
there you go.
thank you so much. Our presentation tonight is the first of two presentations by a committee of the Environment Council. I'm going to do the first part, and Roz will do the second part. The purpose of these presentations is to show the importance of shorelines to the health of our rivers and our lakes. Next one, please. Now, you know how important tourism is to the economy of the Kawarthas. For example, in 2019, which is the last date that we have, $362 million were spent on tourism in the Kawarthas, and certainly a little bit of it trickled down to Douro-Dummer. Next, please. We know that property values have increased everywhere recently, and that certainly applies in particular to waterfront properties. In Douro-Dummer, 19% of tax-paying properties are waterfront, but this 19% pays 32% of the tax base. So it shows the importance that waterfront property has to your budget. Next, please. These pictures are all taken within the last 2 years in Douro-Dummer. They show what people and contractors are doing to the shorelines. They're bulldozing right down for whatever reason. Maybe the homeowners are requesting it. They're requesting to be able to see the water better. Maybe they think it looks nicer, but in so many cases, shorelines shore lands are being destroyed. Next, please. When cottaging first began here, a 50-foot shoreline was considered adequate. But as time has gone on, as people have got bigger boats, as there's more people that have come up with their septic systems, the 50-foot shoreline no longer works. It's simply too small, but in a large number of cases in Douro-Dummer, the 50-foot shoreline remains, and the cottage density is as you see in the picture. Next, please. This picture, I would like to, if I don't have an arrow, but if you will look, you can see how the water comes up to the shoreline where the grass starts. Thank you. And if you would go 10 to 15 meters up on the land from where the water meets the earth, and 10 to 15 meters out into the lake, there's a zone called the riparian zone, and about 90% of all life on the lake comes from there. However, the bylaws that we have made don't take this into consideration, and this is a real issue. How many times have we heard that the land, the township has responsibility for the land down to the water's edge, and from the water's edge out into the river or the lake, that's somebody else's responsibility, be it Trent Severn or Orca. And this man-made line is unnatural. Nature does not recognize this land. And so what happens is that different organizations have responsibility for the land and for the water, but they don't always agree on what to do. And therefore, the riparian zone is by and large not recognized in our bylaws. Ross?
Oh, next, please. Next, please. Thank you. Just so we're not confusing you, what Rob meant to say was that he would take the first half of this first deputation, and I'll do this second half. And there is another deputation that I'll refer to for the future. So what you're looking at is a drawing that depicts the difference between natural shoreline and disturbed shoreline with respect to evaporation, runoff, and infiltration. The native vegetation is a protective factor. Disturbed shoreline of reduced surfaces and, hard surfaces and reduced vegetation does not assist with protection of the water quality in particular, or of the habitat for a number of species. Next, please. Here are the shoreline problems. I'm sure you've all heard of them or experienced them yourself. All of these relate to phosphorus, septic systems, erosion, fertilizer use, and climate change. And I can tell you we're doing monitoring on water quality, so I can attest to the idea or the assertion that we are experiencing definitely increased air temperature and water temperature, which affects the ecosystem, the aquatic ecosystem. So those are a number of shoreline problems. Next, please. So these are the things that property owners can do in protecting the shoreline and avoiding erosion and phosphorus loading. This is another nasty looking shoreline, which has not a speck of natural heritage or vegetation on the shoreline, and is mostly comprised of wall, retaining wall, and docking. Docking is probably fine, but all the rest of this is hardened shoreline. Next, please. Do we have the right tools in place to protect and keep the lakes healthy? The answer to that is unequivocally not yet. We have some, but not enough. And we'll talk about that in the second deputation if we're able to do that for you. So again, all of these changes have a direct impact on the long-term effect of water quality. And that in turn, as Rob has already said, has a long-term economic effect on value of property, tax revenues, and tourism. So what we're hoping for is that we move out of this stage where we're kind of impotent. We're not doing anything about this, and this committee and several other committees on this lake and other lakes are looking at how to protect shorelines, and it's a stewardship action. Next, please. This is very interesting to read, actually. A survey of 50 lake associations, 23 planners, and 44 elected officials. So I'll just give you a minute to read the findings of that. So this is a very clear message around the need for stewardship, municipal policy, and increased education. And that's the major issue. Those are the major messages that we'd like to convey as well today. Sorry. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we looked at this Douro-Dummer strategic plan, and I'm not exactly sure, I think it's a few years old. I'm not just sure whether it's going to be renewed, but certainly it reflects our goals in terms of preserving and enhancing natural heritage features and the resources of the township. That's exactly what we're looking for, and promoting responsible stewardship of the natural environment. So we were pleased to review the strategic plan. And hopefully we'll have some time to talk about what exists now in terms of policy and options for protecting shoreline in the current official plan and any other bylaws that have been developed since this was developed. Next, please. Okay, so these are our main messages. I'll just give you a minute to read them. So this line here, I think, is significant. It's better to protect natural shoreline rather than trying to restore what's been altered. It's a big job many times. I mean, Sheila probably will be, quite aware of this. She's been involved in some of the effort by the Environment Council to restore and to study shorelines, actually. So there is a need to step up public education. There's no question about that, both for property owners and contractors, particularly. And in turn, the municipal policy and enforcement is required to support any positive motives or behavior by property owners and contractors. And finally, environmental damage arising from disturbed shorelines and reduced water quality will result in economic. There are studies to support that assertion. We can certainly provide provide reference material, but it's certainly a factor. Shoreline values and ownership on the lake have changed over the last 20 years. And some of it has to do with the changes in water quality, but not all. but it's important. So next, please. I think that's it. Oh no, there's one more slide. Next, please. There we go. This particular committee is consisted of Rob and I and Lois Wallace, and two other members that are volunteer advisors. Mike Hendren, who is the official. Well, he's a registered professional planner, but he works for the. Sorry, it's gone.
Land Trust.
Sorry. What?
Land Trust.
No, he's changed from the land trust. He was taken up into the Canada. It's a land trust, but a much larger land trust. I'm sorry, it just come right out of my head. And if Mike, if you're listening, I'm very sorry. I can't remember where you work. Okay, the volunteer advisor is Andrea Hicks. You may know of her. She works at Cambium, an environmental consulting firm in Peterborough, and both of them have volunteered their time to support the effort of this committee. So in closing, I just want to thank you all for inviting us or having us here tonight. And any interest that you might have in this subject, we'd be glad to provide more information on the importance of shorelines. What we hope is that we'd be able to do our second deputation on March 1st, which will mostly focus on policy options and examples.
Excellent. Yep. Okay, Rosalind, that's good. We look forward to seeing you back again if you simply want to get in touch with the clerk and book that. Thank you very much. I know you mentioned a number of members of your committee, Rob or Rosalind. I was under the impression we have municipal representatives on these committees too. Is that?
Oh yes, this is a subcommittee. I should have said that.
Okay,
What you're looking at is a subcommittee which focuses on shoreline conservation.
Good.
We have a committee of roughly 29 people, and
Excellent.
and there are and municipal representatives on our committee.
Super. And you meet fairly regularly?
We try. We've had trouble with COVID, but we're trying to use Zoom for that. So
Good.
it's been difficult to get everybody together, but I think we had some success last year and hoping for some more this year. We're still going to have to rely on Zoom, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to any questions from members of council. Excellent presentation, and you're right. We need to get some focus on exactly what to do about this. Sheila, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you to Roz. That was a good presentation, and I know you and I've had many discussions on natural shorelines, and you can actually make a weedy natural shoreline look okay if you sort of prune it, but they do work. Thank you for the presentation, and it's nice to see you as well, Rob.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the presentation. I do echo a lot of your comments here on what has to be done and what needs to be done and what's going on in the future. I was lucky enough to go to Camp Kawartha back in the summer when you did the shoreline restoration. After it was all done and you gave us the tour through and stuff like that with Victoria, I don't know, it's Readings or Readings, but she did an excellent job. A lot of stuff that people don't know, like what should be planted back, what should be planted at the edge, stuff like that. This is great information that is accessible to a lot of people, and your committee, your environmental group supplies a lot of that for people. So it's just a matter of getting the word out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carl, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation, both Roz and Rob. Good to see you. Official plan is in the process of being updated, and we hear a lot about natural heritage, and I'm sure you're quite conversant with it. If you haven't already had dialogue with the parties involved, public meetings are going to be conducted in the near future, and it's important that your research be passed on so that once the official plan is approved for Peterborough County, the zoning is behind it, and perhaps there's opportunity to tighten up some of the regs associated with shoreline.
Are you talking, Carl, about the municipal plan or the official policy for the county, or is it one and the same?
It's all one and the same.
One and the same.
We
We're
That's
part
right.
of it. Yep.
sections in that plan that are part of our township.
We have, actually, I should just tell you this quickly. We represent well, we had initial contact with we've had a lot of contact with the county planning
Okay.
department over the years, but we also had one just 2 years ago discussing with them the urgency of, responding to the shorelines. And they were suggesting that we're doing what we're doing now. So
Okay,
they're partly responsible for this happening.
okay.
Good to hear that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing no more hands. I do hope you'll get a hold of Martina. Martina, are you on the beam to get part 2 of the presentation?
Through you, Mr. Yeah, Rosalind
That's
and
good.
Rob and I
Okay.
have discussed it.
And just thinking out loud, Rob, I don't know how many years we've been discussing this, but it makes very little sense for one township to do one thing and another township to do another thing. And, this doesn't follow man-made boundaries. So it's imperative we all get on the same page and do something here together. Okay, thank you to both of you. Thank you both for your passion on this matter as well. We appreciate it.
Thank
A
you
motion,
for
please,
having
to
us.
receive the delegation. From Carl and Heather, all in favor? That motion is approved. Thank you,
Thank you.
very much. We look forward to seeing you on the 1st of
Perfect.
March. That's
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, moving right along now. Other business and staff reports is next on our agenda. And governing of short-term rentals, another issue that has been waving over our head and something that we try to find a magic button to make everyone happy on this one. So Alana, I'll turn it over to you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe this is the report and capital project status.
Yes.
I will speak to it just quickly. I know that we've gone through and added a lot of the capital projects. There's still a few things within
Okay,
the.
sure, gotcha.
Sorry.
So we want a motion to receive it then, Alana?
Yes, please.
Okay, receive that project status, Carl.
I will move, and I got a question.
And Heather is the seconder. Go ahead.
It's just a comment, really. On the page, I guess it's page number 6 or 5, it talks about the fuel pumps at Douro and Warsaw. Before we move ahead with any fuel pumps, council will have an opportunity to look at that. I have serious concerns about adding new fuel facilities in Douro, which are only 2 kilometers away from state-of-the-art fuel distribution at the county. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to look at that before we go too far on that. That's the only comment I wish to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. All in favor of the motion? Motion is approved. We have a verbal report now from Chuck. Chuck, are you doing this presentation? Yeah. On nominations for the alternate fire coordinator for Peterborough County.
Your worships, we, as you're probably aware, Ted Bryan, fire chief from Matana Bay South Monaghan, has retired after 40 some plus years of service. He has been the county coordinator for many of those years. And so with those changes, one of the alternate county coordinators from Cavan Monaghan has stepped up to take that role. So there's a vacancy, and at one of our chiefs meetings, I was asked to stand for the alternate county coordinator for Peterborough County Mutual Aid Plan. So I've talked with Alana about that and have accepted that role pending council's approval. The fire marshal does need a resolution from council in order to put that in place. So that's what we're looking for tonight. And really, I'm an alternate to help when the primary is not available. And we help with, making sure the plan is available to all fire services in the county, and that we help each other out, and a little bit of a few meetings and some reporting and stuff like that. So it's not a huge time commitment, but it's an important one to help each other.
Can't think of a better man for the job, Chuck. So hopefully we can have a resolution here to approve that nomination process. Sheila?
I would make that.
Sheila has made that, and Heather is going to second it. Anyone want to speak to the motion? All in favor? Motion's approved. Chuck, you'll make us proud, and we're indeed proud of you, and all the luck in the world.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Item 9.3, Birchview Road Speed Limit Review. Alana, you're not going to get out of this one now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the recommendation is that CAO 2022-04 report dated February 15th, 2022 regarding Birchview Road speed limit review be received, and that council directs staff to prepare an amendment to bylaw number 2018-39 as amended, being a bylaw to restrict the rate of speed for motor vehicles on highway portions within the township of Douro-Dummer to reduce the speed on Birchview Road, and that council approved the transfer of $5,000 from reserves to fund the cost of the signage. Just very quickly, one of the reasons that we are asking to transfer the money, we did want to set this up as a capital project, just so it's easier for us to track the funds that are going into Birchview. I know there's been lots of discussion prior to my arrival and since I've arrived and looking at what we've spent in the past. So we thought it'd be best to set this up as an individual project so we can track that moving forward and it doesn't get lost in the existing operating budget.
Okay, thank you very much, Alana. Any questions on the report? If you're going to debate the report, we'll have to have a motion on the floor, but here's the opportunity to ask Alana any questions. Carl?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the report. I noticed later in our meeting, we have a police service board minutes from a meeting, and I don't see the Birchview Road speed limit review on there. And I guess I'm having trouble promoting this recommendation without input from the PSW, because they're basically the experts in this field, because just reaching out to somebody who's got some experience on traffic control and so on, is the real problem not enforcement on this road rather than what we're about to do. And I know the report is recommending a reduction. However, many of us that drive these roads these days, and maybe I'm getting more into the debate here, maybe I should just leave my comments for now. But I just, that further question about PSW, and all our committees, we value their input, and I just don't want to bypass them. And I wonder if they're having a near future meeting that they could perhaps look at this in more detail.
Alana or Martina?
Through you,
Can you
Mr. Mayor,
address that?
the Deputy Mayor Moore. So initially, when we looked at the speed on Birchview, the black cat was provided by the OPP to take a look at the speeds along that road. And when it did come back, it was just identified that the speed wasn't in excess of the posted speed limit. So there was no recommendation at that point from the Police Services Board or the OPP. I think through various delegations and discussions at council is why we went through this process to look at the speed based on the safety of the road. And the consultant has come back and said that from a safety perspective, that they feel that it should be reduced on that portion of Birchview from 60 to 40. I'm happy to take it back to the Police Services Board. They likely will not meet, I believe it's May or June. So it will be some time before we can gather that information and come back to council. But if that's the direction of council, we can definitely put it on their next agenda. We didn't have it in time for their previous meeting, which was just recently, but we definitely can take it moving forward.
Lana, I did believe I saw an email searching for a March meeting from Carol Ann. Maybe I read it wrong. I don't know. But you're probably more aware of it than I am. And I can't find it right now.
That meeting, I believe, is specifically to discuss the community safety and well-being plan. I think that just came through today or yesterday.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Okay, Carl, thank you for your comments. When we have a motion, we'll certainly open it up for any debate. Sheila, I saw your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just a comment, I guess, through you to Carl. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Get down. He's just new to the house, so yeah, he's sorry.
Welcome to reality.
But there are statistics from August 11th to August 20th, 2021, with the speeds and the number of people that were speeding and what speed they were going, and there are quite a few stats. Some of them go quite fast. Yeah. Did you want a motion to receive and follow the recommendation?
No, the motion's going to be up to whoever wants to make it. It's nothing to do with what I want. What would you
Okay.
like to do? Any other comment? Any questions? Okay, let's hear a motion then. Sheila, if you want to make that, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to receive the report and follow the recommendation as outlined.
Okay, do we have a seconder to that motion? Heather is going to second the motion. Okay, Carl, anybody else would like to speak to the motion? Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm having trouble supporting it at this time without further consultation with the Police Service Board. Couple things that come to mind, like basically 60 to 40. In the old measurements, that would move it from 38 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. That is pretty, and anyone that drives 25, that's poking along pretty good, pretty slow. And the extent of extending it right to McCracken's is quite a long time. And I think most of us out driving these days are faced with tailgaters, and quite often tailgaters eventually, if you pull to the right, they'll pass, or they'll pass your anyway. And if we reduce it to 40, there will be more passing on that road. And is that really a safe thing to perhaps happen? Because people will not be happy with 40 kilometers per hour. And that create another problem with walkers and the safety of, because there are a few curves on that road, a few hills and so on. And I'm not sure that that would be the way to go. And I'm not sure that our consultant even, and maybe I should have went through the report in more detail, but I missed the section, but about in Peterborough, you're on these cut through side streets. You've noticed the number of rubber bumps now being installed. Apparently they are even compatible with snowplows. If that might be a consideration to help with the enforcement, because I think in a lot of cases, enforcement is the issue here. And I don't want to get into something that we're going to have to reverse or change. It's unfortunate the Police Service Board are not meeting for a couple of months, but I think we need to do it right. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Go ahead, Heather.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you. As this council knows, since 2019, I was appointed by this council to work with the BPOA in trying to address concerns with respect to safety. And as the CAO's report references, most recently, they've made 2 delegations, but we all know that they've made several delegations to council in the last 2 years and beyond. I see this as a win for council, for the BPOA, and for the residents on Birchview Road by reducing the speed limit. I mean, we're seeing now in many other municipalities that 40 is the new 50. Cars are going with much more speed than ever before, and worse, more distractions. We have an engineer's report before us, which we requisitioned, that now identifies that really this road is poorly allocated at 60 and shouldn't really meet those standards. So I'd be concerned about going forward, now that we have the knowledge of this, the potential risk and liability that falls within that. The reality is this road is a residential street. It's like an urban residential street, and I believe the report references this as well, that just happens to be in a rural setting. And, you know, for people who want to go faster than the posted speed limit, there are alternative routes. There's County Road 6. People can really go down Camp Line Road and access the road that way, right? And through. So that there are alternatives. This isn't forcing people into this box, and it's a step towards making Birchview Road safer for the residents, pedestrians, and cyclists who use that road, recognizing that it's also part of the Shimano bike trail system. So, I mean, I seconded the motion. I support what we're doing and what the recommendation is by staff, and I just wanted to let my comment stand.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. No, and I know it's been quite a bugaboo for quite some time with safety and so on and so forth. As probably most of us or all of us, I've driven that road back and forth over the last 40 years. I hate to say that, but it's been 40 years quite often. And my thinking, and this is just me, and I know I'm not a consultant, whatever, but from Fiddler's Lane through to Camp Kawartha in the summertime, and this probably wasn't done when you have a lot of cottagers up, stuff like that, a lot of people walking the roads. But in the summertime, that seems to be the busy time when you've got walkers and people out with their dogs and bicycles and stuff like that. This time of year, it's probably a little bit different. But from Camp Kawartha right through to McCracken's Landing, I've never found that very, very busy at all for the amount of people that are in that other section. So although I'm in favor of dropping it down to the 40, I don't know that right through to McCracken's Landing. I would say, you know, just to a little bit east of Camp Kawartha, and then put it back up, even if it went to 50 or leave it at the 60. But that's just my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comment. Anyone else like to speak to the motion on the floor, please? Okay, let's call for the vote. The motion is to adopt the recommendation, correct, Sheila? Okay, all in favor?
Oh, sorry, Alana had her hand up.
Oh, Alana, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, if I can just confirm to adopt the recommendation that was presented in the actual report, which would be to leave it at 60 from 28 to Fiddler's Lane and then 40 from Fiddler's Lane beyond.
Yes, and yes, the entire recommendation was my motion.
Okay, thank you. I didn't put that specifically in the recommendation in case council wanted to modify that. So I just wanted to be clear that it was the recommendation that the consultant had provided. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, everyone's clear on that? All in favor? That motion is approved. Thank you very much for that report, Alana. 9.4. We're going to go out on the hook here at Crow's Landing and McCracken's Landing, and that's something that we've been dealing with, I guess, since COVID kicked in. So, Alana, I'll turn it over to you.
Through Mr. Mayor, this is going to go actually to Martina.
Oh, sorry, Martina. Go ahead. You can put the line on the water.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the recommendation that's before council is that this report dated February 15th regarding the prohibition of fishing at the municipal wharfs be received, and that council extend the prohibition on fishing indefinitely.
I think we're all well versed on this issue. It's an unfortunate situation we've had to deal with, but you've heard the report and the recommendation. Would you like to make a motion or ask a question? Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to follow the recommendation, and I'll make a comment if someone seconds it.
Second to that, please. Sheila is going to be the seconder. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through you again. I believe this is, seeing the comments that have been made in there, we haven't had a whole bunch of backlash on it. People are being very respectable and respectful of it. So like that, we've had no complaints from neighbors. In fact, we've had kudos from neighbors for coming up with this. So I don't see the problem extending it out indefinitely.
Yep. Carl, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the report. Just curious from staff standpoint, has there been any inquiries or negative talk relative to the no fishing there from residents that are disappointed with us that we've seen? Or I know I haven't had any comments, but
Martina?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I haven't received any comments or feedback from the public about it. We do have a provision in the bylaw that we could bring a special event to council if there's someone who wanted to host a fishing tournament or something similar. And other than the one from our fire association, we haven't gotten any requests. And the fire association sadly had to cancel their event, but maybe this year they'll be able to do it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you for clearing that up. Sheila?
Yes, through you to, I guess, Martina, just one comment. Under the bylaw, whatever it is, 2037, is that the number? And item 16, I think probably in the second last line, it should be continuation or repetition of the offense, not office.
Thank you. That bylaw is the current bylaw that's expiring.
Yeah.
So a new bylaw will come at the next meeting
Yeah.
if council passes the motion.
Okay.
Okay, we have the motion on the floor. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? That motion is approved. Item 9.5, mandatory firefighter certification. And Chuck, I know there's a big meeting coming up tomorrow provincially. Maybe you can explain it all to us.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the report I have before you, I wouldn't say is inaccurate. There's nothing in there that's inaccurate, but there's been, because of the timelines and 30 days of notice, we had to get something before council. We hadn't had meetings and we hadn't had follow-up. So looking at the regulation and the impacts is kind of what that report is about. But I do have quite a few additions, what we've learned. And I guess certification started out because firefighter deaths and between firefighter death and students being trained by third-party people while performing ice rescues. There was some other incidents, but that wasn't ice water related, but that's kind of how this started. And I was on that technical table at the very beginning talking about these things. And somehow they've learned that they can't control third party. And we've turned it into certification that we had back in 2018 that failed. And now it's back here again. I don't think certification is not a bad concept, but when you add the word mandatory, it's definitely going to have impact on cost, retention of our volunteers, possibly recruitment, and service levels throughout the province due to the onerous certification levels that the OFM is proposing may be an impact as well. Like I talked about, the 30 days is, I think, in my opinion, is totally unreasonable to have the consultation on this to see what kind of impact it's going to create, what kind of cost this is going to have. There's some things in here they talk about legacy purposes on moving forward, but we don't have the framework of what that even looks like. And again, this report had to come to council because of the timelines. Many municipalities are still meeting, like you said, tomorrow, and there's OAFC PAC zone meetings being held as late as the 17th. So it's not fair to have these meetings for people that will never be able to get them onto their council agendas. So other things, based on the analysis of this certification, and we'd be in the neighborhood of about 48 hours of certification testing for a firefighter to be completed within 2 years of hiring. Other certifications, obviously, we have our DZ licensing and medical certificates, watercraft licensing, WMIS, AODA, and the list goes on. So it's a lot to ask of our volunteers for this level of certification that they're asking for. And then we get into an officer level, we're going to add another 3 exams. And if we get into any fire prevention, public education, investigation, add another 3 exams. So it's a lot to ask. And with this regulation, there's much work to do by the OFM as well. And although we were finally getting some forward movement with our new fire marshal, for the past decade, the OFM has proven to us that they haven't been able to support the changes that they've tried to implement. They closed the fire college with, again, very little notice and no real action plan. And we're still feeling the effects of that. And you can see some of that in my attached letter that was from the training center directed to the fire marshal's office up through the fire college. So but what we have been told is right or wrong, it seems like the certification is going to happen. So I think that we still need to tell them that 30 days is unreasonable. But if we are to move ahead with certification, this is how I believe it would make it work for us. So I have a few points here, and I apologize for the length, but I think it's important. So start certification with Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2. That includes hazmat operations to get Firefighter 2, our Instructor 1, and our Officer 1. And that would be effective 2026 as they suggest. To make an easier implementation to spread out the workload, move all fire prevention, education, investigation certificates to 2027. Fire officer level 1 needs a 1-year implementation process because now they have no implementation progress. Pump ops, vehicle rescue, heavy vehicle rescue need to be removed from the certification. Keep as a municipal level responsibility to meet their needs, just like an aerial apparatus has no certification in this process either. Ice and water rescue, I think that's an important thing. And like I said, this all started out because of that. And I think if they were able to give us training resources, like I said, I sat on this committee in somewhere between 2015 and 2017, and we're still waiting for those resources to be shared. So if we have those, that we could even move that ahead of the 2028 day that they suggest. There is some confusion over some prerequisites. The fire college has, if I take the course on March 31st of this year, I don't need a prerequisite, but if I take it April 1st, I need to take a rope rescue course before I can do ice water, which does not line up with the standards and is unreasonable as well. Provide proper training resources. We could, in a timely manner, we could then expand to our technical rescue stuff, and that would be more of our county SRU team that would be implementing and be facing those things. I think we need to expand on e-testing options, provide hardware by the OFM to the regional training centers, provide a one-time grant to municipalities for hardware, computer or tablet, maybe utilize in conjunction with the OFM buying power to achieve the best value. And I think providing an annual contribution to funds specifically for training and certification to municipal fire departments. We need to remember that the push for certification is understandable to ensure safety of firefighters, but certification is only a snapshot in time. If I'm 18 years old, which I know I don't look like it, but if I am, and I became fully certified in 2 years at 20 years old, it's still the municipality's responsibility as it is today to maintain those skills for the next possibly 40 plus years. So by reducing the number of certifications required in this regulation, making it more manageable and reasonable to ask of our volunteers, I think that is achievable, but what they've provided to us right now is not. The type of onerous process of certification currently proposed has a high probability impact the delivery of fire protection across rural Ontario and could create public safety levels to be reduced for the wrong reasons. Focusing on the certifications as described above will take care of 95% of what rural Ontario fire departments do. And that's a significant change from where we are today. There is some problematic departments perhaps that have, maybe not setting the level of service where it should be. But if there's 5 or 10% of those, we shouldn't all be painted with that same brush. So with the recommendation in my original report, I'm looking to add the recommendation that from points of this verbal update to be included in the letter, and then we add the OFM and AMO to that list. Thank you.
Well done, Chuck. Very, very thorough. Carl, go ahead.
I move that amended recommendation.
And a seconder to that, please. Heather.
I'll second that with a question once this goes through, or whatever you wish.
You're the
Mr.
seconder.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Beyond the motion, how can we help? Is there? I mean, it does seem like the regulations have come through with not a lot of thought. Putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. Is there anything we can do within our power as council, whether it's working with our provincial partners, or where do we go from here? What can we do?
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Watson, the political landscape of this may be the challenging part, and with an election coming up and a 30-day notice to get this done, and I think the OFM has been told to get this done, and so I don't believe that we can stop it. It would be nice to say, you know, give us another 60, 90 days, but if it's because of election purposes, I don't think we're going to win that battle. So I think we really need to push on certification being in the right way instead of in the way that they're proposing it. It's not achievable. And I know, I mean, we do have a meeting with the CAOs and the mayors tomorrow. But I can tell you that, you know, the presentation that we received was typical rural Ontario is going to need 3 exams, and we can come to your fire station and do it, and it's not going to cost you anything. But I think we're typical rural Ontario, and I know that we have a couple, you know, half of our department does technical water rescue, whether it's ice or surface water, because of our lakes and that fits with our landscape and what we're promoting. So I don't think that we're that far different than typical rural Ontario, and you know, 3 exams versus 11 to 13 is a very big difference. So I really think that I would love to delay this and have more discussion, but I feel like the presentations that we were given, everyone seems to be on the board that this is happening, and I think we need to work on shaping it instead of trying to stop it. That's
And
just
to
the
be
feeling
frank,
I'm
Chuck,
getting.
this is precisely the kind of issue that Roma and AMO was designed to address and represent municipalities all across, and for that matter, EOWC. So it's unfortunate that they're rushing this so fast that none of us seem to have time to respond to it. I would certainly suggest everyone contact their MPP and express your displeasure about the schedule of this thing. And I think that's all we can do for now. We'll hear what they say tomorrow at this conference. And it's unfortunate. And with an election coming on, you just might get someone listening to you. Yep. Okay, the motion is on the floor. Is there anyone else want to speak to the motion? Call for the vote. All in favor? That motion's approved. Chuck, good luck, and we're behind you. We'll do whatever you need us to do, and I urge everyone to maybe get in action yourselves and try to lobby about this. Okay. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Committee minutes, other reports. We have Police Service Board minutes from the 1st of November. A motion to receive and approve those minutes, please. Tom? Seconder, please. Heather, all in favor? That motion is approved. We have no bylaws. We have no action items. Reports derived from previous notice of motion, none. Do we have any notices of motion? Any community announcements? And there's no closed session. Confirming bylaw 2022-09 is before you. A motion, please. Sheila. Heather. All in favor? Motion approved. Confirming bylaw is done. Next meeting, February 25 for your committee of the whole, and March 1st, our next council meeting. And a motion to adjourn, please. Carl. And Heather, all in favor? Thank you. That concludes our meeting here on the 15th of February for the Township of Douro-Dummer. We thank everyone for joining us. We'll be back again on the 1st of March. Everyone, please be careful